Hi, my name is Matt Mellott with Sterling Commercial Real Estate. I spend bulk of my time working on land sales and land development activity in Missoula, and I'll give the 2025 wrap up and a look ahead for 2026 as it pertains to land sales in Missoula. I think the big theme that you'll see from 2025 is that there's been a fair number of transactions that have occurred, both closed and then gone under contract. However, the increase in transaction volume is tied largely to prices coming down somewhat for commercially zoned and high density residentially zoned properties in Missoula proper. And some of that is due just to some economic forces, largely construction costs still being elevated, and then cost to borrow being high as well. And then that is balanced usually against what you can rent or sell a property for. And if those things don't balance out, there's usually downward pressure on the remaining variable, which oftentimes happens to be the land underneath of it. So what we've been seeing in Missoula in 2025 is transactions or prospective transactions, ones that have gone under contract, have increased, but it's because there's been, in some cases 10 to 15%, maybe sometimes more, in a reduction in the sale price, the contract price for land. So that's specific to, again, commercial infill property in Missoula. What you see on the outskirts for industrial zone property is that because there's a relative lack of industrial zone property that has access to utilities, to sewer, municipal scale water, and that sort of thing, that lack of inventory has actually caused prices to go up more for industrial property. So the difference being that whereas in the city proper of Missoula, commercial land used to sell, routinely in the $30 per square foot range, that has now come down to where you're seeing it in the upper 20s, sometimes mid 20s. On the flip side of that, when you have industrial property, you're generally seeing land sales between $5 to $8 a square foot in years past, and now that's pushing up somewhat to where $6 to $9 a square foot is more common. Two different land types, and there's different economic forces at play for both of them. One other thing to note is that for central business district zone land downtown, that has historically sold $70, $80 a square foot for property downtown, but the city has agreed to sell 2 acres to a hospitality group to build a hotel on the riverfront triangle. Again, that is a central CBD zone property, so high intensity. Their agreed sale price is at $45 a square foot, which is a significant reduction from what other things have sold for. So I think that data point will push downward on land values for downtown in the near future. So that's land for 2025 as a wrap up. Looking ahead to 2026, I think the biggest thing to pay attention to are still those same factors of how much does it cost to construct, what is the borrowing cost, and then how does that interplay with what you can sell or rent things for at the end of the day. That's one big one. And then the second is that Missoula is in the process of implementing a new zoning code. In many respects, it should increase density and increase options for potential buyers or developers of property, which would theoretically help to increase values of land. However, the density increases are sometimes offset in terms of what you can build on the property by other restrictions, things like build-to zones and some landscaping requirements. There's also requirements related to the glazing on the facade and that sort of thing. So you may have a counterbalance of, even though you have higher density, there's more restrictions on other components of how you build on the site, which may negate each other. So paying very close attention to that, assessing with your property, what the new zoning is, how that's going to impact you, I think is the best thing to do looking into 2026.